Hey everyone, before we begin tonight, I want to slow this down on purpose. If you're listening late at night, if you're alone, if the room you're in feels quieter than usual, this might not be the episode you casually put on in the background. This is Sinister Sunday. Tonight, we're not talking about a crime. There's no suspect, no arrest, no resolution. Tonight, we're talking about a place. A real place in the United States. A place where people live ordinary lives until they started to realize something was responding to them. I'm your host, Jess, and I didn't want to do this one alone because the longer you sit with this story, the more it pushes back. So tonight, I'm joined by one of our Unfiltered the Podcast co-hosts, AOV.
What's going on, everyone? Thank you for listening in on this podcast. But I already feel like this episode is going to it's going to hit one of those bones because it's not our usual Sinister Sunday podcast. So this is going to be nice and slow. So I just want everybody to enjoy it. Sit back. If you have any questions, interact with us.
So I'm going to ask you something right away. When you first heard the name Skinwalker Ranch, what do you picture?
Well, I actually thought it was like an actual person or like a case.
Okay.
But then I just thought deeper and I was like, well, maybe it could be the other thing that it actually is. I don't want to say it and to blow it, but yeah, I thought it was an actual story of like a guy that
Okay.
cuts up people and just walks around like, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep.
Yeah. I mean, when I first heard it, because I didn't do any research on it until, I actually did the research on it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I felt when you hear that name, like everybody has heard the term skinwalker before.
Yeah.
But you think danger, you think
Mm-hmm.
like something like something big, not in like a size sense, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
who's ever this is an actual place. Okay? And everyone who's ever gone there says the same thing at the very beginning. Nothing felt wrong. Nothing felt off.
And that's what's unsettling. Because if your instincts aren't worrying you, you don't know where you're supposed to leave, when you're supposed to leave. There's no clear line when things are going to turn bad.
Do you think that's something that's like intentional? That feeling?
I don't know. I guess it's probably based off the person.
Okay.
Like if the place is calm, then your instincts doesn't get alerted, so you're not looking for certain things. Your mind is not like picking things out. Okay, putting 1+1 together.
Right.
So you're already in a comfortable state.
And that's gotta, like, what does that say about whatever people believe is happening there? You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Like you said, it would be based on the person. Like, is every person experiencing the same stuff? And if you listen, you'll find out.
There you go.
So, long before investigators, before cameras, before this place ever became public, the land already had a reputation. Not written warnings or spoken ones, but the warnings were passed quietly.
That detail always stands out. People whisper warnings when they believe attention itself matters. Like talking about it too openly could make something worse.
Yes. And the warning wasn't dramatic. It wasn't, this place is evil or, stay away. It was just simply, don't engage.
That's a specific instruction unless you believe something reacts when you interact with it. Like if you're aware of something. It implies
Right.
like the least response.
Mm-hmm. Don't follow the sounds you can't place. Don't stare too long. Don't acknowledge the things that don't make sense. And above all, don't invite it to notice you.
That phrase alone raises so many questions. What does notice mean here? What happens once that attention is given? And do you know what attention to give it? Like at what moment to give it? Like that's the you don't know.
Right. Right. It's pretty, I mean, it's pretty broad. Like don't notice. But I mean, you're noticing it by just thinking about it, right? So what are we not noticing? You
Exactly. And
know?
then it brings curiosity. So now you want to look for the
Mm-hmm.
thing that they're
So you're
whispering
noticing
about.
it even
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So we're gonna talk about the wolf encounter. Um, when the Sherman family moved onto the ranch in the 90s, they didn't know any of this. They weren't chasing mystery. They just wanted land. They wanted a quiet, normal life. And for a while, that's exactly what they had until the wolf appeared. This wolf didn't run through the bush, it didn't circle, it didn't keep its distance. It walked directly towards them.
That alone breaks instinct.
Hmm.
Predators don't approach humans calmly unless something is wrong, sick, desperate, threatened.
Right. And this wasn't like, it wasn't frantic. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't starming. It wasn't starving. It was calm, measured, and the way they described it, it was enormous. But the size wasn't what terrified them.
It was the way they described the wolf watching them. No hunting, no assessing danger, observing.
Right. Like it was almost waiting. So one of them actually reached out to the wolf, like went to touch it.
That moment never makes sense to me then. And I think that's
Hmm.
important. Every instinct should have been screaming not to do that. Don't go up to the wolf. It makes me wonder what atmosphere felt like in that moment. Like what made them go up to the wolf? What did they see? What they noticed?
Right. I mean, when I was younger, I was taught not to even walk up to a dog on the street that somebody's walking. You don't
Yeah.
just walk up to an animal like that. But you got to think, wild animals, they flinch. If you're coming towards them or something, they flinch or they react. But this one didn't. So, um, they actually fired a shot at the wolf. They watched the bullet hit, but nothing happened. It just stood there. So they fired again.
And then it just leaves.
It almost seemed like it was irritated, but there was no blood. There was no panic or anything. It just turned around and walked away. And later, they found a wolf that they believed to be the same, that was lying dead in the woods, but there were no wounds.
And then that thinks it brings to a point of like does this like at what point does this animal stop being like an encounter? Like
Hmm.
what like was what if it wasn't an animal? Was that what does that even mean?
Right. And see, that's where um when I was, reading into it more, that's where the skinwalker thing came in. Because yeah, if it's not an animal, that's kind of what skinwalker means, is they take on shape of animals or whatnot. So yeah, that would be my first, that my
Yep.
first thought. After that, the animals were first. The cattle that these guys had were found dead. There was no struggle. There was no blood. There was no tracks, but the organs were removed with precision.
That's not chaotic. That's controlled. And control
Mm-hmm.
implies intention. Someone did this.
Right. Veterinarians couldn't agree on how it happened, but they agreed that it wasn't random.
Why do you think intention is harder for people to accept than violence?
There's thought behind it, and for somebody to do something like that, they're intentionally, I don't know. That's what I think.
Yep.
It's the thought behind it that's the scary part. So when investigators arrived, they trusted equipment more than feelings. They had cameras, motion sensors, radiation detectors. They had night vision, audio recorders, and they believed that data would catch whatever was happening.
And that's what makes this worse. These weren't people walking in expecting something paranormal. They trusted instruments.
And that's why what happened next was so unsettling. The equipment started failing, but it didn't fail randomly. It failed selectively. And inspectors described hearing something, such as like footsteps or movement, and a sound that didn't belong there. And the moment they turned towards it, the cameras would shut off. There wasn't a before, there wasn't a later. It was right then that it happened.
That's what I can't shake off. Random failure is messy. This wasn't messy. It was intentional for that exact moment.
Right. One investigator actually watched a battery indicator drop from full charge to completely dead in seconds. And another one said that audio equipment recorded hours of silence perfectly until somebody said, "Did you hear that?" And then the recording completely cut out.
Yeah, that's crazy. How many moments do you think were almost caught? Like, how many times did something happen that you'll never know about?
I don't know. I mean, there were multiple people at multiple different times that were saying that they heard something or witnessed something or saw something, but none of that was caught. And I'm talking, this was throughout years.
Yeah, it kind of leaves you to where maybe it was just a thing of it just wanted you to hear that and no one else. But then again, if you have that experience, there's no proof.
Right.
So now it just looks like you're just,
Crazy.
coming up with something.
Yeah. People describe sounds that don't behave like sounds should. So they're hearing footsteps that stop when you turn around, or movement that circles you instead of approaching. Knocks that don't come from walls or doors but seem like they're from an open space. So you're hearing that echo.
That detail really bothers me because the sound usually tells you where something is. These sounds didn't. So it's pretty much just the sound, but no direction of it.
And this is out in the open, which is, it's weird. One investigator said that it felt like the sound wasn't traveling through the air, but it felt like it was already there. So the presence, the heaviness, it was just lingering right there.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because if you heard something and the equipment says different, which one do you trust?
I mean, like I said, I would just think I was crazy. If nobody else can hear something that I'm hearing, I would think I was crazy.
Exactly.
But like I said, this is multiple people, different situations, different times. It's So eventually investigators leave the ranch. And the thing is, the activity doesn't stop.
This is the part that makes it personal. Because it doesn't stay in one place. Lights, shadows, dreams that feel intrusive.
Not symbolic, but ongoing.
Now, do you think attention itself creates the connection? If so, how does it connect? I believe your mind creates the connection off of an experience that you had. So you're experiencing something new, but merging it with something else. So now
Right.
you feel
Like I
like
said,
something is connected.
you're thinking about it, then you're creating that connection. Yeah,
Exactly.
I
Like, let's
agree.
say someone passes recently and you see things like move or shadows, you kind of connect that shadow with somebody that passed. So now you're thinking it's them or something like that.
I want to add in here also that there were signs of like lights flying around in the air, but they weren't. I shouldn't say flying. They weren't stars. It wasn't like a shooting star or anything, but they were just floating there. And people described it that they would kind of follow you. So if you're walking, across the land or whatever, it seemed like these lights would follow you. And then they would split but come back together. So you got to think this was back in the 90s, all right? Nowadays I can see okay, they're probably drones or something flying around out there. But we didn't have that deep of technology in the 90s yet even. At least I don't think we did.
Yeah.
This is going to be kind of a so before we end this, I don't want to rush away from it because rushing is how people convince themselves nothing really happened. There's something about this sitting with the story long enough that changes it. You've got the waiting, the resistant, the almosts.
It doesn't feel unfinished by accident. It feels unfinished on purpose. That just leaves you like a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I agree. And at some point, people stop asking, what is it? And they start asking something quieter, like, what does it want?
And even asking that feels risky because let's say it tells you what it wants. Now what?
If attention matters, then questions are neutral. There's moments that investigators describe late at night when the ranch feels almost peaceful, not active at all, not threatening, but aware. And that's kind of brings me back to earlier when we were saying that people were saying that the ranch, they felt like they were observing. The ranch was observing them. Whatever was happening there, when they had this quietness, they felt like they were being observed. And that kind of is what they said about the wolf too. When the wolf walked up to them, they felt like the wolf was just observing them.
Yeah, and that's
And
like the
then
scariest part because it's watching you. You don't know when you're gonna see another encounter.
right. And it kind of reminded me like when we go to the zoos, how those animals must feel, we're watching them, we're observing them and their patterns and what they're doing. And a lot of these people said that that's how it felt, was that they were in the zoo and they were being watched, and their patterns of what they were doing were being watched. So right now nothing's happening, but it really feels like something could. And unfinished things linger. Maybe that's the real legacy of Skinwalker Ranch. Not the lights, not the creatures, not the theories, but the way it teaches people to sit with that uncertainty. I'm interested to hear,
Exactly.
if you guys have something, some input on it or what you guys think some theories could be. I know that they sent scientists out there and they checked for, radioactivity, if this was like a hot spot for radioactivity or anything, and they came up completely with nothing. There was nothing that was off the radars, nothing like that. There was just no explanation for what was going on.
Exactly. No UFOs, just unexplained mutilations.
That was another thing too, is how do you remove organs and there be no blood trail? There be no tracks. There be no, nothing like that. How does that even happen?
Yeah, that's
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions. Which is, I mean, that's what makes it kind of exciting though. Like there's a lot of different theories out there. You've got the scientific theories, and then you've got the the paranormal theories of it.
And the fact that this is an ongoing thing, nothing solved. So it's basically like a living experiment that's just waiting for something else to happen to keep the story to continue.
Yeah, and it's still happening to this day. There's still activity reported to this day. Is there anything else you wanted to add in, AOV? Or any other questions or theories, maybe?
I don't know, because it's kind of leaves like it's in the open now. Now I want to stay updated with this.
Right? I know. All right. Well, with that, we're going to end tonight's episode. Like I said, this was a little bit different than our regular true crime, but we wanted to add a little bit of mystery in there. So thank you for sitting with us, and thank you for listening all the way through. Thank you for giving the story your attention. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, make sure you go ahead and follow, especially when someone who loves unsettling stories that don't tie themselves up neatly, go ahead and share this out to them. If later tonight the quiet feels heavier than usual, try not to wonder why. Because sometimes the most unsettling thing isn't that something is watching. It's the feeling that it already knows you were. This has been Sinister Sunday on Unfiltered, the podcast. We'll see you next time.